1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Wow. Hi, and welcome to Speakeasy. Tonight we're going to be interviewing John Fine and Donna Plummer, two of the most marvelous, fantastic musicians I have ever had the pleasure of working with. And John, how are you this evening?
Oh, doing just fine, thank you.
Great. Donna?
I'm doing great.
It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah.
John, you're a musician in the local area, and you're also a guitar teacher at where?
Live Music Center.
In other places, right?
Beautiful off downtown Vacaville.
And Donna, you're a working musician in the local area?
Yeah, I play around in the Bay Area. We travel wherever.
And you're going to school too,
Yeah,
right?
I go to school. I go to Solano Community College under Mr. Bump for
Wow.
music. I'm also taking art there.
I'm sure you're teaching him a few things with that flute.
I don't know.
It's a pleasure to hear you play. It's always just great being on stage with you. It's
Thank
a
you.
wonderful experience.
Thank you, Rick.
John, you have traveled around. You've shared so many stories with me. I don't know where to begin.
Yeah, I don't
It's
either.
like an
Well,
old friend here.
I was on the road for a lot of years, most of the 70s, and I played with everybody from George Jones to top 40 bands that nobody's ever heard of, but I stayed pretty busy. Worked all over the country for the most part, up into Canada, traveled around all over the place.
You know, it's wonderful to spend your life as a musician and working as a musician.
Yeah.
When I go to work, I don't call it work. I go to play, right? To be with
Yeah,
our, to be with our students.
They call it playing music. They don't call it working music.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I loved about playing 6 nights a week was that, you know, with the old style sit-down gigs, where you'd walk in, have your gear set up. I played one club down in Sunnyvale for 2 years back in the early 70s. 6 nights a week in and week out. My amplifier had dust that thick on it when I finally pulled it out of there after 2 years. It was great. All I had to do was walk in with my guitar case.
You know, that's one thing. When we used to play, I remember we would do 4-hour gigs.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I feel sorry for the young musicians coming up in a sense where they're only playing like for 30 minutes.
Yep.
They're doing a show back to back with other bands, and they're just one of the featured acts. Whereas we had a real opportunity to really develop and to grow our music.
Yeah.
And
Well, you've got to remember, though, too, that when the Beatles hit, they were doing 20-minute shows. But before that, when they started out in Hamburg, well, in Liverpool before that, but in Hamburg, they were doing 8-hour gigs
yeah.
with, from what I understand, almost no breaks.
Wow.
That had to have been brutal.
Oh, yeah.
But it sure turned them into a band.
It did. And Donna, your experience too, right? Working with bands where you're the featured performer. So don't you feel a lot of pressure or weight when to carry that band through?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I just play. You know, I just want to play. He has lived. He's already done what I aspire to do. I'm serious.
John's great. He's
Done
wonderful.
all right. No.
No, I wasn't saying you're done. You've been where I would like to go. You know, traveling like that, playing like that. Just that's all I want to do. I just want to play. I just want to play, and I want to make money playing, and make a living.
That's the hard part these days.
Yeah.
Have you ever
nowadays,
had
yeah.
people come up to you and ask you, what's your favorite song?
Yeah, yeah. But I'm like this, I have 3 children, and I can't say which of my 3 children is my favorite child. So it's like, how can you ask someone what's their favorite song when they're all equally as important? You know what I mean?
Right.
I can't pick one child and say, okay, this one's my favorite. I can't pick one song and say, this one's my favorite, because I
John,
love them all.
Do you feel like that too?
Yeah, well, people ask me all the time, what's your favorite kind of music to play? Because I've played everything from rock to jazz to country to blues to R&B, any combination of the above.
Which, by the way, I have to interject here. John is one of the most fantastic aspiring steel guitar players on that guitar you ever. Can you give us a demonstration
Sure.
of some country licks, John?
Yeah, I can't play steel to save my life physically, but I have great fun trying to do it on guitar. Let me.
Oh, take me back to Texas. Wow, yeah, take me back to Texas. Boy, that's great.
And anyway, the point that I was going to make was that people ask me all the time, what's your favorite kind of music to play? And I give them an answer that sounds flip, but I really mean this, is it's whatever I'm being paid to play at the time.
There you go.
I know it sounds flip, but I like just about everything. And if I'm getting paid to do it, then I owe the audience the best performance I can give them. And if the band is good, I'm digging anything. You can put me in a punk rock band, you can put me in any situation, and if the players playing it are good, I'm going to have a great time.
For me, it depends on the mood I'm in at the time. If that's my favorite song. Songs have a way of taking you places, don't they?
Yeah.
Like if you hear your senior prom song, for instance, it just takes you back.
Oh,
There's
absolutely.
no defense against it. You hear the melody, and whether you wanted to or not, bam, you're in that time period, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what music does to me. When I'm playing the bosses, which are my favorite type of music.
Mine too.
You like bosses?
Antonio Carlos Jobim.
Oh,
goodness.
Carlos
Yeah,
Jobim has to be my favorite composer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when I'm playing the bosses, I think of there was a place I used to go in Mexico. It was called Tiburón de las Playas, and it was where you would go in the evening in the beach in Acapulco and just watch the sharks as they made their way across the waters with
Did
the
you say
sun
sharks?
going
You didn't
down.
say ships. You
I
said sharks.
Okay.
Okay.
That's Tiburón. Like we have a place here called Tiburon.
Tiburón.
It's Tiburón. Yes, and it's great, but it takes me back to that place of hammocks and watching the sharks and just a beautiful, beautiful time. So that's what bosses do to me. Do you find that a certain kind of music?
Oh, absolutely. I came up in the 60s. I grew up in San Francisco. I mean, you can tell by the hair, right? I'm an old hippie. I grew up in San Francisco in the 60s, and I was very fortunate because it was a really creative period for popular music in general. It seems like when I was in high school, my senior year, every week I'd discover somebody. Some old blues guy that had been around forever that us white kids had never heard of, or some new guy coming up that was just absolutely fantastic. So I can hear stuff like, for example, I can hear something like that, and it takes me right back to 1967 because that's the kind of stuff I was playing back. That was Cream, yeah. That's the kind of stuff I was playing back then, and or. Kind of stuff. That's really where my roots are, is blues-based rock. But that led me into just about everything else, including country and jazz and whatever. So I would love to find a radio station that played nothing but the San Francisco stuff from that era, because I grew up with it and I love it.
There was a time you told me about when you were aspiring to be like Eric Clapton.
Oh yeah.
And you were playing this club and you did this Eric Clapton lick. Can you tell us about that?
Well, it wasn't a club. I was in a band my senior year in high school. If anybody in San Francisco remembers Heavy Bear, our drummer in that band called me Eric Jr. because I spent so much time with my ear up next to the record player trying to cop Clapton's licks, and he was doing some very bluesy kind of stuff with a big fat neck pickup sound and a lot of distortion. A lot of that kind of stuff. And he came up to me one day in rehearsal and he said, "Wow, man," he said, "you really sound a lot like Eric Clapton." And I said, "Well, thank you very much." And he said, "When are you going to get some stuff of your own?" And I went, yeah. What a concept." So that's when I started listening to all the other guys that I'd been listening to before I fell under the spell of Eric Clapton. So if anybody out there is an aspiring guitar player and you're copping licks from somebody, if you steal from one guy, it's plagiarism. If you steal from 50 guys, it's research.
It's a great motto. Talking about the 60s growing up, I always had a band, and it was mainly with my brothers and sisters. And Donna, we had a song we used to play with flute. And you probably remember it, John. All the Leaves Are Brown.
Oh, sure. California Dreamin'.
Let's do a little bit of that.
Sure.
All the leaves are brown and the sky is gray. I've been for a walk on a winter's day. I'd be safe and warm if I was in LA. But I'm California dreaming on such a winter's day. Yeah, I'm California dreaming on such a winter's day. California dreaming on such a winter's day. California dreaming on such a winter's day.
Now you're probably too young to remember the flute solo.
That was great. That was great.
But it went, the flute solo and that one went.
Yeah, that was a flute
was
solo.
sort
Wow,
of,
on
yeah.
a guitar.
Close to it.
I want to play guitar solos on my flute.
But I was always dreaming about being in California. California to me was like, you had to come here in order to make it. And boy, here I am.
Yeah, I was in California at that time. Like I say, I grew up in San Francisco. Very, very creative period for, as I say, for rock and roll and pop music. And I'm fortunate to have grown up in the city where it was all happening. It was happening all around me. And I was absolutely sure I was going to wind up being a rock star by the time I was 21. Didn't happen, but here I am.
Well,
I'm
believe
still here
me,
and still
we
picking.
in Texas envied you guys out here in California because this was the place to be, and you know all the songs all seemed to revolve around California. The Beach Boys, all their stuff, and
Oh,
it just
yeah.
seemed like everything was coming out. This was a mecca for music, and I'm just so thankful now to be in this part of my life and to be here. It's great.
Talking about California, the stuff that turned me on when I was first starting to play. Not that I could play this stuff when I was first starting to play, but
Oh yeah. Wow. That's great. Apache was another one.
Oh,
You
yeah.
remember Apache? Forgot how it went.
D,
See?
A minor. F, A minor. Oh yeah. D major. G, A minor.
Oh wow. Oh yeah. The
Some of my-
definitive.
Some of my favorite stuff in the world. I love instrumental surf music.
The definitive surf sound. Well, thank you for feeding me those chords too.
That's
It's been so long since I've played
I haven't
it, but
played it in a
I
while
need to
either,
play the
man.
Telecaster on that one. This thing. Wow.
I actually started out doing folk music on an acoustic guitar. That's what my teacher taught. She taught stuff like Puff the Magic Dragon lived by the sea. You know, and I didn't want to do that. It was about all she taught. I wanted to play Chuck Berry. I wanted to go. And she said, "Well, I don't know anything about that." This was back in the days when.
Gee, surprising.
Well, this was back in the days when folk and rock didn't mix. Kind of hard to conceive of now, but back then the folkies hated rock. They didn't want anything to do with it. They thought the electric guitar was an abomination. This was when Bob Dylan went electric in 1965. His following just went, "Oh God, Bob, say it ain't so, man." Jeez, you know, they threw things at him and
We had a
hollered
similar
at him. And
we had a similar thing like that happen in Texas between the rednecks and the hippies, or the surfers they were called at that time. I never saw the ocean, yet I was called a surfer. So yeah, figure that one out. But when Willie Nelson came along, he seemed to combine those two genres, and it fused them together. So then I didn't have any fear about going to country dances. They didn't have any fear about coming to a rock festival. It was great.
I was the same way. When I started playing country, was back about 1970 or thereabouts. Now before that, I had been just a straight ahead rock, R&B, blues kind of a guy.
Yeah.
I didn't like country because I hadn't really been exposed to it. Back then, rednecks didn't like hippies and hippies didn't like rednecks, and I was a hippie. So I knew what side of the fence I was on. So I said, well, if they don't like me, then I'm not going to like them either, and I don't like their music either, so there. But I wound up in a band with a rhythm guitar player who had grown up listening to country. He was a hippie like the rest of us, but he had grown up with it. So he keeps bringing in these great original country rock tunes and these great cover tunes, bluegrass and traditional country. And I'd go, man, where are you getting these tunes? And he'd say, they're country, man. I said, really? Isn't that stupid music for rednecks? And he said, you shut your mouth. And he took me over to the house and he played me Buck Owens, Merle Haggard, Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys,
Bob Wills, wow.
and Ray Price. And I walked out of there going,
favorites.
Where have I been?
Wow.
Fell in love with the stuff, started listening to country on the radio, and this was back when country was really country. And I just fell in love with it. So the lesson to be learned from that is don't think you know everything about a style of music that you've never paid attention to, because there's something good in anything.
Ray Price had a way of bringing jazz
Absolutely.
into country. I know you're tired of being all I ever wanted. You no longer feel the love I have for you. What happens now? What will I do with all the memories and the dreams of all the love we'll never share? But I won't mention it again. I won't think about tomorrow. Just let it happen. Live each hour, day by day. And let me tell you before you go how much I love you. Then I won't mention it again. I won't mention it again. It's been a long time since I played that song.
God, I haven't done that one in years.
Favorite
man. It's a
songs,
great
Ray
tune.
Price. It's just if you haven't heard of him, he's just one of the. He was able to bring jazz and country together, fuse it. What a marvelous individual.
Absolutely. He did those great honky tonk shuffles.
Oh yeah.
Just
Heartaches by the Number or Crazy Arms.
you make my eyes run over all the time. You're not happy when I'm out of my mind. You don't love me, and you won't let me be.
Don't you ever get tired of hurting me.
Great stuff.
Yeah, great stuff.
Absolutely great stuff.
4/4 beat, you know?
Yep.
So- you can't help but move when you hear that 4/4 beat.
And you goose that up a little bit and Way Marie, Louis Prima.
Oh yeah.
And you goose it up a little bit more and you get. Well, I'm sitting here wondering, will a matchbox hold my clothes? I'm sitting here wondering, will a matchbox hold my clothes? Well, I ain't got no batches, but I sure got a long way to go.
Oh,
Rockabilly,
Rockabilly,
early
Donna.
rock and roll.
There's a rockabilly tune. It's called "They Put My Last Clean Shirt on My Poor Brother Bill."
That one I've never
Right
heard.
before they buried him, they put my last clean shirt on my poor brother Bill. It's a great tune. And So, John, I understand. I got a little info. I talked to your wife earlier, and I said, "Is there anything I can sing John with?" And she said, "Something that you might not know. It's his birthday today." So, John, we want to all wish you a very happy birthday.
Well,
and
thank you very
I think
much.
we have a birthday
Wow, happy birthday.
cake
Thank
for
you.
him.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
So,
Oh, I can see it coming.
so let's sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear John. Happy birthday to you. We wish you many, 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 many more, John.
Thank you very much.
We'll just put it right there for him. That's great. And at this time, I'd like to bring up Eric. Eric is one of the students we have at Live Music, and he's going to perform a song for us. It's called Black Orpheus, and it's from a movie. It's another bossa nova tune, very cool tune. So Eric, come on up. Eric, how old are you?
14.
14, and what school do you go to?
We'll see what.
Wilsey Wood. What are you going to major in when you get to college? Any ideas? Well, it should be music because you're an outstanding musician, man. I feel like a lot of times, I'm a guitar teacher at Live Music, and I feel like a lot of times I'm not teaching students, I'm actually playing with musicians, and it's a real honor to have you here with us. And so let's play Black Orpheus. And we'll let Donna do the intro, and then you come in. Okay, Eric. Wow, very good, Eric. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very, very good. And we'd like to thank you for tuning in to us today and watching Speakeasy with John Fine and Donna Plummer. And we're going to take it out with a tune called Days of Wine and Roses. It's a little bossa tune, and it's written by Henry Mancini, and it's one of my favorite songs. The days of wine and roses, laugh and run away, like a child at play, through the meadowland toward a golden door, a door marked nevermore. It wasn't there before. The lonely night discloses just a passing dream, filled with memories of a golden smile that introduced me to the days of wine and roses and you.